was January 9th. It was 2013. I had just left my house, taking my two kids to activities at church that Wednesday. I'd been serving in a leadership role for about 5.5 years at my local congregation, just volunteered role. And I was on my way to the building. We lived in a rural area, about 3.5 miles outside of town, a town of 1,200 people. We had 5 acres. We had a log home that I built with my bare hands. I had some help. And my wife called to say, I think the dryer's on fire. And as soon as she said that, I had this pit in my gut that said, we're going to lose our home. She shared a few more things about what was going on. I hit the brakes and I turned around, grateful to have those two kids in my car because I'm confident I would have ended up probably in a tree because I was driving home in a, let's just say, a fast sort of way. When I got there, all I could think of was, how am I going to put this thing out? I drove through the yard and bypassed all my family, and I began the quest to put it out. It wasn't too long before my oldest son at the time came and said, Dad, come look at this. And I looked through another window and I could just see the blaze. We lost everything that night. As I walked through the house later that evening with the fire marshal, and he showed me kind of the pattern of everything, he shined his light across the room and to the darkness, and I could see just char everywhere except for a picture. It was our family picture, and we were all there. Everybody was out in the yard. As I left and I walked towards my wife, my heart filled with gratitude. I just dropped to my knees and we embraced, and I just let it out. I had everyone. I had everything that mattered. That night, we needed to make a choice, and the choice was, what do we do? Do we sulk in this, or do we move forward with faith? And we chose to move forward. The miracles just kept coming in. And I would just simply say this: the decision to move forward and not dwell on what happened was the best decision we ever made. In fact, we look back on this day as one of the greatest blessings in our life. So many things came from this experience. I'm not suggesting that a house fire is the answer, but boy, if you've got a basement full of a lot of junk, it's one way. And I don't mean to make light of fires, because I know some people have had them and it's awful and they take lives and all kinds of things happen that are bad, obviously. But for us, we looked around and we could see that we had each other. The things that mattered most were present. And 2 bad days from that fire happened. The first was that night when we knelt together as a family and prayed, and my son cried like I've never heard anyone cry before. It was such a deep sadness. He was so scared. And then the second time was about a year and a half later when I went over to the house to get some things, and I was watching and they were throwing all of our stuff into the garbage bin. That sucked. That was a tough day. But outside of that, it wasn't too bad. It was annoying. It was frustrating. It took longer than it should. At the end of the day, we were all together. I'm so grateful for that experience. Life has these moments, and we need to make a decision in those, how we're going to move forward. And I chose, and my wife chose, and our children chose to move forward. In your moment of choice, make a decision that moves you forward. Don't stay where you are.